Scores. Okay, 3, 1 1/2, 2, 1 1/2, 1 1 1. Nicole Glover, Las Positas, 101A, forward dive straight. Scores. Two and 1/2, 2 and 1/2, 2, 3, 2 and 1/2, 2, 1 and 1/2. Lizzie Walls, Santa Rosa, 101B, forward dive pike. Scores. 5, 5, 5. 5, 4 and 1/2, 5. Okay, Gabby Lemoyne, Las Positas, 105C, forward 2 1/2 tuck. Scores. Okay, 5, 3 and 1/2, 4, 3, 2 and 1/2, 3 and 1/2, 2. Elena Candiotti, Santa Rosa, 103B, forward 1 1/2 pike. Scores. 5 and 1/2, 5 and 1/2, 5 and 1/2, 6, 5 and 1/2, 5 and 1/2, 5 and 1/2. Gina Jacobson, Santa Barbara, 5132D, forward 1 1/2, 1 twist. Scores. Okay, 6 and 1/2, 6 and 1/2, 6 and 1/2, 7, 6 and 1/2 across. Millennia Milburn, Sierra, 301C, reverse dive tuck. Scores. 6 and 1/2, 5 and 1/2, 6 and 1/2, 5 and 1/2, 7, 6, 6. Caitlin Smith, Orange Coast, 401B, inward dive pike. Scores. Okay, 5 and 1/2, 6, 6, 6. 6 and 1/2, 6, 5. David, if you could hold yours down in front of you, that'll be easier for me. Stephanie Rodriguez, LA Pierce, 401C, inward dive tuck. Scores. 4 and 1/2, 5, 4 and 1/2, 4 and 1/2, 5, 4 and 1/2, 4. Jean Liu, El Camino, 401B, inward dive pike. Scores 5, 6, 5, 5 and 1/2, 5 and 1/2, 4 and 1/2, 4 and 1/2. Ashley Detman, Santa Barbara, 103B, forward 1.5 pike. Scores 7, 6, 6, 5 and 1/2, 6 and 1/2, 6, 6. Nicole Spriggs, Saddleback, 103B, forward 1.5 pike. Scores 6, 5 and 1/2, 5 and 1/2, 6 and 1/2, 6 and 1/2, 5 and 1/2, 6. Nicole Cox, Sierra, 203A, back 1.5 straight. Scores 5 and 1/2, 5, 4 and 1/2, 3 and 1/2, 4 and 1/2, 4, 3 and 1/2. Alexa Martinez, Sierra, 101C, forward dive tuck. Scores 3, 3 and 1/2, 3 and 1/2, 3, 4, 3 and 1/2, 3. Liz Sanchez, San Diego Mesa, 403A, back 1.5 straight. Excuse me, Liz, sorry, hang on. 203A, correct? Okay, 203, back 1.5 straight. Scores 5 and 1/2, 5 and 1/2, 5, 5 and 1/2, 4 and 1/2, 5, 5. Valentino Bandolinardo, Las Positas, 105B, forward 2.5 pike. Scores 5 and 1/2, 6, 6, 6, 6 and 1/2, 5 and 1/2, 6. Alejandro Gomez, Cyprus, 103B, forward 1.5 pike. Scores 7 and 1/2, 7, 7, 7 and 1/2, 7 and 1/2, 7, 7 and 1/2. Johnny Staley, Las